Hello, 11th grade Honors American Literature. This is Miss Ritter, and this is your quick tour through our syllabus for the year. So the first thing I want you to take note of is that the same contact information for me that you'll find in Google Classroom is here on the header of the syllabus, email and phone number. And just to be clear, I will always respond to you as quickly as I can, but the RSD policy on getting back to student requests like through Remind and email is that we have 24 business hours. So that means that during the school week it's 24 hours, but if you would contact me at midnight on a Friday, I technically have until Monday to get back to you. So if you have big questions, do not leave them for the last minute because you might not get an answer in enough time to take it into account. The next thing you'll see here is a big matrix of all the classroom codes for Remind and Google Classroom. If you are not yet on the Remind for your class period, I highly suggest that you sign up for that. That is the quickest way to get a hold of me for small questions. Moving right along, we have our course description. This is just a long way of saying that we're going to be looking at your critical reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills. And it says to achieve a level of proficiency with the standards. That just basically means in this context that you are going to be taking the Keystone exams as a graduation requirement at this point, according to the state. And in order to pass that, you need to get a proficient rating. So we're going to be looking at your skills with that as a goal. All kinds of different texts will be dealt with, obviously, because this class is called American Literature. That is the primary literature that we'll be dealing with. So you will be reading a bunch of different types of texts, speeches and short stories and poems and nonfiction articles, all dealing with American cultures and traditions. Our course text for this is going to be Springboard, which is new this year to all of our ELA classes at the high school. We'll get more into what exactly that is when we start the curriculum next week, but for right now, just knowing that that's what it's called is good enough. The way that that curriculum is divided is that there's a unit for each quarter of the school year. So you see here, that means that we have 4 major units in the year. Here are some of the topics they cover, the types of texts we'll be reading for each of them. So if you're interested in knowing what those are, you can take a closer look at that on your own. And then we get down to the section on rules and expectations, which a lot of these are different due to distance learning. So the most important ones and the ones that you'll see across all of your classes are these digital citizenship norms. So basically, we want you to log in to your classes, to do the work in your classes and stay on task. So talking about class while you're in class, being respectful of me and of your classmates, reaching out for help, which is why I'm putting my contact information all over the place, citing your sources, and that means doing your own work. So we'll talk more about that with the academic integrity policy. Not sharing inappropriate material anywhere, especially in the online realm where things can't just be gotten rid of, and being generally forgiving to each other and to me because we are trying to figure a lot of things out at the same time. There are some specific expectations for Google Meet, which obviously is also new this year. Before the meeting, just trying to find a place as comfortable as you can and as free of distractions as possible. I understand if you guys are at home, you know, there's going to be stuff going on. There's stuff going on in my home too, but just being able to concentrate as best you can, and that you always mute your device before the meeting starts so that I can get on and talk and give you instructions. And then during the meeting, again, being patient, being engaged, taking turns with speaking and doing so by unmuting your microphone only when you're talking. As far as cameras, you may keep them off if you prefer to. If you want to have them on, you can have them on as well. There's only one time they must be off, and that's if I'm recording any part of our meeting for posting on Classroom. So if I need you to do that, I will tell you. Oh, let's see. You need to have some rules for using the chat. Basically, if you have questions or comments, I will say to either unmute yourself and ask them or to put them in the chat so that I can address them. The same expectations apply that would apply in a regular classroom about the kind of language you're using, what you're talking about in the text and in the chat and in our class. And again, asking for help. So, I'm going to put that in every chance I can get. This is the section on the academic integrity policy, which is a separate document that we'll deal with separately. But it's basically the statement that there are serious consequences if you cheat or plagiarize in this class. So we will read that more carefully in a separate activity. Class procedures, a lot of these have changed also because of the distance learning, and some of these you'll be familiar with because you've gone through them for an entire day already. Attendance for classes is taken with a Google form. You're present as long as you complete that form within the first 15 minutes, late if you submit it after the first 15 minutes, and absent if you do not submit it at all. We are having a little bit of a change to SSR this year. You're going to have to do a Zinc reading lab, which is something that's connected to our curriculum, before we start regular SSR. So that involves taking a diagnostic test to show your reading level, and then we sort of move from there. Intervention period is also a new process that is built into this different schedule that we're following this year. And it is a time there's every day the teachers have from 8 to 8:35 set aside to give extra help to students. There are specific class periods assigned to different days, but if there's free time, I will see you whenever I have that time. So things like individual or group tutoring or checking in about a concern, that's what that time is for. The intervention process, that's like if I have to intervene because something is going on. If you are failing the class, if you are persistently absent or skipping, if you're showing major behavioral or emotional issues, this just tells you the 3 steps that a teacher, myself or anyone else, would take, which is to conference with you first, second, to make contact with your parent or guardian, and then third, to refer you to administration, either core team, discipline, or student assistance program. Grading is also a little bit different. There are 3 different kinds of grades you're going to get in this class. You have tests and quizzes, class participation, and homework. So the grading breakdown is how they're weighted when they go in the grade book. Tests and quizzes are worth half, class participation 40%, and homework 10%. The timeline for grading isn't really different, but I'm not sure that you knew this before. So 7 to 10 days after the assignment is due is when it will show up in eSchool. I usually try to do them as quickly as possible. The 10 days is for like long writing assignments that will take me a longer time to read. Okay. Ooh. All right. And then the late work policy is also new because the district has decided to make this school-wide. And that is that late work will only be accepted for half credit for 1 week after it's due. It's a little bit different for alternative assessments, and we don't have an alternative assessment category in this class, but these are things that might end up in your test category, like projects or essays. Those would be accepted late, and you get 10% taken off your grade per day, not to exceed 50%. So those are accepted up to a week before the end of the quarter. So you could get half credit if you did a perfect job on it up until the end of a week before the end. Oh, asynchronous activities are due at the beginning of the next synchronous class meeting. That's something that we'll go over when we start asynchronous work. And then missed work, it's your responsibility to look in the rolling agenda and find what you missed, to review it, and then if you need help to ask me. Any missed work, things that aren't turned in when they're due, will go into eSchool as a 0 so that you are seeing your true current average when you check home access. So that means that, if you missed it for an excused absence and it's in as a 0, you can make that up for full credit for a week. If it's something that you were here for and you just didn't turn it in, that applies to that new late work policy, so half credit for up to a week. If you skipped class and you got a 0 because you skipped class, that is not eligible to be made up. So those are the basic policies for this class. I know that this was a quick run through. If you have any questions, please let me know.